It's one of my favourite Grand Prix of the season. It's the Canadian Grand Prix, so let's make some predictions for this weekend in Montreal. Hello everyone, welcome back to ASGP. My name's Aaron and today I'm taking you through my predictions for this year's Canadian Grand Prix. I've already done a couple of predictions with my 5 things that will definitely happen at the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend. You can go and check them out up here somewhere. And also I let a wheel spinner decide the podium, and it's quite an interesting podium, so go and check that out as well. They're both available as shorts on the channel. But before you go and look at those, let's go through my predictions. Now, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal has a history of crazy and unpredictable races, but it hasn't quite lived up to that in recent years. Perhaps 2014 was the last truly unpredictable race where Daniel Ricciardo took his maiden Grand Prix victory on the Ile Notre Dame circuit. And Canada's seen its fair share of first-time winners because Lewis Hamilton and Robert Kubica took their maiden wins in 2007 and 2008 respectively. It's a race that can throw up chaos. That 2007 victory for Hamilton had 4 safety cars, which at the time was a record. Kubica had a horror crash that year as well. Alexander Wurz barrel rolled his Benetton in 1998 at the start. And in 2008, when Kubica took his maiden win, Lewis Hamilton crashed into Kimi Raikkonen in the pit lane. So it can all happen around the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal. But with the long straights in Montreal, Red Bull will probably be further ahead than they are normally. But there is hope though, because the weather forecast, which looks like this on Saturday and like this on Sunday, suggests the possibility of rain in and around both qualifying and the race. So for wet races, I mean, there was a fairly memorable wet race in 2011, wasn't there? So, you know, like I said, it can all happen in Canada. With all that in mind, let's get some predictions on the board, starting with pole position. And, well, you won't be surprised to see that I'm going to go for Max Verstappen on pole position. The Dutchman is just in incredible form right now. This is the sort of form we've seen from the likes of Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, these dominant champions before. And Max is completely in that mode right now. There's no competition either outside of his team or really inside his team because he's got Perez covered. Let's be honest, Checo's title hopes are probably done and dusted already, so it's just a matter of time and which race and how many will be left when Verstappen is crowned champion. So he was crowned champion with 4 races to go last year, I think. So, you know, it's just a matter of time really. And he's going to be on pole position again. The Red Bull's just going to work so well in qualifying with the DRS. It's just going to be... weirdly, the Red Bull hasn't been so strong in qualifying, but I think the amount of DRS and the straights, it's all just going to be a bit too much for anybody else. I think he'll be joined on the front row by Sergio Perez, and I think that's how they'll finish. I think Red Bull are going to get a 1-2. Max Verstappen's going to win the race, and Sergio Perez is going to finish second. So I know people have been putting around that Perez doesn't necessarily have a great record around Canada, but let's bear in mind the cars that he was driving. And if you think about it, in 2020, if he'd gone there with the racing point, he probably would have done all right, to be fair. And he had a 3rd place when he was with Sauber in his first year in 2012. So I don't think it's a terrible track for him. I just don't think he's always had the car to really fight at the front. And I think that's different this year. He didn't do the best job last year, so things were a little bit closer between them and Red Bull and Ferrari. So it's one of those things. Sometimes you do well, sometimes you don't. I think this is going to be one of those occasions where Checo does do well and he gets second on the podium. Now the big question is who's going to join the 2 Red Bulls on the podium. Ferrari will probably be quite quick down the straights over 1 lap. Aston Martin will probably be good through the corners. Mercedes probably won't be the best of the 3 out of either. So could they be on the podium? And yes, I think they will, because I think Lewis Hamilton will finish 3rd. He's a bit of a specialist around Canada. He's got many wins there. So why not Lewis Hamilton? And Ferrari tend to fade in the races. Aston Martin are draggy down the straights, and they've shown that already this season. So it's going to be a very interesting battle between those 3 teams. And there is a team that I think could get involved in that fight and really throw a spanner in the works. But I'll come to them in a minute. So my podium is Verstappen, Perez and Hamilton. And that team to keep an eye on is Alpine. They tend to go pretty well on tracks with lots of straights, and the French team are on a bit of a roll at the moment. Esteban Ocon got a podium in Monaco, did alright in Spain, so did Pierre Gasly, even though he got a penalty on the Saturday for blocking in qualifying twice. He qualified fourth in that race, so what could he have done from fourth on the grid without those penalties? We'll never know, of course, but I think those two drivers are ones to look out for. They could be getting in the mix with the likes of Leclerc and Alonso and Hamilton and Russell, and just making things really, really interesting for that battle for third place. And of course, you can share your predictions with me in the comments down below. So tell me who you think is going to be third on the podium, joining the Red Bulls on the rostrum on Sunday afternoon. That's all for today. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Share it if you really, really super enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Grand Prix content. And thank you very much for watching.